Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Welcome to this online launch of the new ILO Guide for Policymakers on Quality Apprenticeships. Thank you very much for joining us. I see attendees are slowly joining. Thank you for coming. My name is Cecilia. I will moderate today's event. I work in the skills branch of the ILO. And the event today is an opportunity for us to present you with this new guide. And we will hear from the guide's author, who will give an overview of the guide, as well as from country representatives from Ethiopia, from Costa Rica, and from two important ILO partners, GAN and JANU. Before we start, let me mention that this guide has benefited from the inputs of numerous ILO colleagues and also colleagues from partner organizations, including GAN and JANU. It also benefited from research findings of the adult project reports, which were funded by the government of Flanders. We will share the link to these reports in the chat. And for our opening session, we will have Srinivas Reddy, the chief of the ILO skills branch, who will deliver some opening remarks. However, we will just wait a couple of minutes because he's having some issues to join. But in the meantime, you can maybe familiarize yourself with Zoom and the chat. You can write in the chat below. If you have questions, you can already start writing questions throughout. I mean, while they come up during the presentations, you can start writing them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And we will answer some of the questions at the end of the meeting today. Thank you for your patience. Just give us a couple of minutes. We're trying to... Okay, great. I see that Srinivas just joined us. I hope you can hear us well, Srinivas.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great.
Sorry for joining you all late. But now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Welcome, Srinivas. So I already introduced that you're going to give us some opening remarks. And so Srinivas Reddy is the chief of branch at the ILO skills branch. And please, Srinivas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to colleagues joining from the far and wide. I want to really thank you for taking the time today and joining this very important dialogue on the quality apprenticeship systems. I just want to refresh your memory. Last year, 2023, the International Labour Conference adopted the new recommendation on quality apprenticeships, R2208, with a strong tripartite consensus, as you all will remember, which is a testament to the power of the social dialogue. This is a significant achievement for the tripartite partners because the Quality Apprenticeship Recommendation 208 provides a global benchmark for quality apprenticeships while recognizing the need for flexibility based on national circumstances. The goal of R208 is very clear. It seeks to expand apprenticeships, improve their quality and relevance, ensure inclusivity, and guarantee adequate rights and protection for apprentices. Governments, employers, and workers all agree quality apprenticeships are essential for enhancing employability, business productivity, and just transitions in the world of work. With the recommendation in place, the focus has shifted to implementation clearly, and this is the new policy guide, which is a tool to support this process. The guide is designed to help policymakers translate the principles of R208 into concrete policies and programs, ensuring that quality apprenticeships become a reality. I would like to sincerely thank each one of you and all the colleagues and constituents who contributed to this guide with your inputs and expertise both from inside and outside the ILO. We are committed to continuing our support for quality apprenticeships worldwide. Based on the plan of action for the implementation of R208 that was adopted by the governing body of the ILO, we are working with several countries, including a number of countries in all regions whose experience will be shared today. Particularly, I want to thank the colleagues from Ethiopia and Costa Rica who have volunteered to share their experiences. Through policy advice, development cooperation, and advocacy, ILO will continue to assist governments and social partners in strengthening their apprenticeship systems. However, making quality apprenticeships a reality cannot be only an individual effort. It requires strong partnerships between governments, employers and their organizations, workers and their organizations, academia, training, and several skills development stakeholders. That is the reason why we are pleased to collaborate with a number of organizations, including our very important partners like the Global Apprenticeship Network GAN and GenU, who are present in this event and beyond. I hope that today's discussions will provide valuable insights into how R208 can be translated into action and inspire everyone to explore ways to work together in advancing quality apprenticeships globally. Thank you very much, colleagues. Welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Srinivas, for your remarks. And now we will dive into the core of today's session, so the guide for policymakers. And to walk us through the key highlights and have an overview of what this guide is, how it was structured, and how to use it, I am pleased to introduce you to Jeff Bridgeford, who is the main author of this guide. Currently, he is visiting senior research fellow at King's College London. And he's an expert on apprenticeship and skills development, or an apprenticeship nerd, as he likes to call himself. So please, Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello to you all. Yes, what I'd like to do is just have a look with you at what the resource tool is, the guide. It's a comprehensive reference tool for the implementation of the ILO Recommendation 208, and obviously for the development of quality apprenticeships. It is comprehensive. It could be more concise, but the important thing is to ensure that there are as many opportunities to be able to link into this whole process for all people around the world. And then that's the reason why it is the length that it is. So who's it for? Well, it's for policymakers, the representatives of government and of employers and workers and organizations, and any other stakeholders, particularly employers themselves, or indeed TVET institutions. What form does it take? Well, it's made up of 8 chapters, and I'll go through them. This is particularly important because this mirrors the chapters of the ILO recommendation, so it'll be easy to be able to follow exactly what's happening within the document itself. So we've got definitions, we've got scope, means of implementation, and social dialogue. We've got regulatory frameworks for quality apprenticeships, protection of apprentices, apprenticeship agreements, equality and diversity, promotion of apprenticeships, and internal, regional, and national cooperation. So that's a lot of different issues that are being addressed by this particular guide. And my job now will be able to go through those chapters with you very, very quickly and give you an indication, a flavor, if you like, of what you can expect to find within the guide. Now, as far as structure is concerned, I think an important point is that each chapter has the appropriate extract from the ILO Recommendation 208. So there's the reference point for the chapter. It's the appropriate articles or chapters that are in the recommendation itself. There's a brief explanation of the significance of these issues, and there are concrete examples of how ILO members from around the world are addressing apprenticeship policy making and policy implementation. Now, I'd like to put the stress there on that last element and put that stress on around the world. What we've tried to do with the guide is to ensure that all parts of the globe have an opportunity to be able to participate, if you like, in the demonstration of things that are happening as far as the development of apprenticeships are concerned. Let's move on then. So, chapter 1, it's got definitions, and it's got 4 there. I put 4 for you up on the screen: apprenticeships, intermediaries, pre-apprenticeship programs, and recognition of prior learning. I think it's fair to say that the definition of apprenticeships, at least from my experience, is one of the most comprehensive and concise that exists in the whole area of apprenticeship development. And we have intermediaries, pre-apprenticeship programs, and recognition of prior learning, which are obviously important issues that help to support the development of apprenticeships. In chapter 2, we will be looking specifically at the themes, scope, and that's important to draw your attention to the fact that it's not only for the private sector, it's also for the public sector. Means of implementation, well, clearly one of the most important elements is national laws and regulations. Many countries have national laws and regulations. Some of them date back many years, and the whole question for many is how can those laws and regulations be respected and also be developed, perhaps through collective bargaining agreements, certainly by the construction of policies and programs. And then we've got the involvement of representative employers and workers organizations who are being called upon within this recommendation to design, implement, monitor, and evaluate apprenticeship frameworks, systems, policies, and programs. This is an enormous challenge for governments and particularly social partners, employers and workers organizations. But there's a very clear reference within this recommendation that the social partners should be at the center, as well as, of course, the representatives of government. So the next issue to look at is the whole question of measures to be taken to establish or improve a national system. Here I've come forward with 7 of the different suggestions. There are 15 in all. And in fact, I'll be saying that later on in the brief presentation. There are many, many examples of ways in which apprenticeship systems can be built. We're looking here at establishing a regulatory framework. I'm not going to go through all the 6 of them there, but 7 of them there, but there's some very, very interesting ones, and you'll find other examples when you look back at the recommendation that the ILO has adopted. Let's go on to the next one, protection of apprentices. Now, this is really an important issue, and indeed, this was one that was brought to the fore during the negotiations for the adoption of the recommendation. This wasn't necessarily considered to be a chapter at the beginning of the process, or a chapter on its own at the beginning of the process, but as the process moved forward, it was decided that this issue needs more presentation than is necessarily the case initially. So we'll be talking about fundamental principles and rights at work, but equally we'll be talking about things like remuneration, working time, holidays, occupational safety and health, social security, many of the things that are required to ensure that the apprentices, particularly in the on-the-job training, are protected. So let's now move on to the next chapter, which will look at the question of the apprenticeship agreement. I think one of the most important words in that particular area is the word written. That is to say that it is not an oral agreement, one that cannot be referred to at a later date, but it is a written one which has a certain value that an oral one wouldn't have. And what should be in that apprenticeship agreement? Well, we can see that we need to define the parties' respective roles, rights and obligations. We need to demonstrate what the provisions are as regard the duration of the apprenticeship, remuneration, working time, etc. What are the competencies that young apprentices will learn? What certificate can they hope to have at the end, or qualification? And of course, this has to be registered with a competent authority. So it's not just a document just for the apprentice and just for the employer, but it fits into a broader context. The next chapter refers to the question of equality and diversity, and there the emphasis is on one of the ILO's particularly important issues, which is the promoting of equality, diversity and social inclusion, and considering ways that apprentices are not discriminated against, that they don't suffer from violence in the workplace or harassment or indeed exploitation. And then we move on to another chapter which looks at the question of how to promote apprenticeships. There are many, many ways. Indeed, in this particular chapter, we've got 18. So I wouldn't put 18 chapters or 18 elements on one single PowerPoint. But I would say that these are some of the ones that could be particularly important to ensure that in promoting apprenticeships, they are on solid ground. For instance, sectoral skills bodies could be set up to see what jobs are needed now and in the future, and what skills would these jobs require, and how many people would the sector wish to train to ensure that these issues are looked at, particularly through the question of labour market information systems. It's going to be a great defeat for everyone if, in fact, lots of people are being trained, but they're not trained for jobs that are required in the labour market. And then there's one other that I'd like to mention there, which is a whole question of effective and sustainable financing. A very important issue, a very complex issue, but one that I think I'd like to draw to your attention, as indeed incentives there could be as well. And then we're on to chapter 8 and international, regional and national cooperation. Obviously, there's an opportunity, and we're having that opportunity today, in fact, to have an exchange of good practice. And the second element there, which is extremely difficult to have, I must admit, is transnational mobility of apprentices. It exists in some countries, but it is extremely difficult to organize. And then there's an important issue that to do with the recognition of qualifications, so that one country can understand that what's happened in another country would mean that those people who are migrating from one country to another would have an apprenticeship and would have done the appropriate training for that. And then the guide has a couple of annexes. First of all, we have the annotated recommendation. Secondly, we have a glossary of key terms and concepts in alphabetical order. So it goes all the way from apprentice to vocational. And in Annex 2, there are examples of national apprenticeship laws. There's Germany and Kenya. The German one has been translated into English. There's oh dear, there's a spelling mistake there. That's my fault. Costa Rica, I don't know how that got in there. And Spain, I apologize to all the Costa Ricans who are listening. In Spanish, and Morocco and Switzerland in French. Concluding remarks. Well, I'm not going to make many. All I am going to say that 468 organizations voted in favor. One person voted against and 6 abstentions. So to all of you who are listening to this presentation, you can be sure that your governments, your employers' organizations, and your trade unions have already voted in favor to adopt this recommendation. So there should be at national level a real interest in ways in which this can be developed. And the next element, of course, as far as the implementation is concerned, is to be able to have a look at this guide and to see ways in which this guide can be used to be able to support you at the national level to develop apprenticeships and quality apprenticeships. Cecilia, I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for this very insightful presentation. It gives a clear overview of what to expect from the guide. And now let's hear from 2 countries that are actively working to strengthen their apprenticeship systems, also with ILO support. And we will start with Eric Sandoval Corrales. Let me change the slides. Okay. So Eric is the advisor to the executive presidency at the National Institute for Apprenticeships of Costa Rica, INA. And so he will share how Costa Rica has been advancing apprenticeships and how ILO has supported. So Eric, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Cecilia. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to share Costa Rica progress improving the apprenticeships and how the ILO guide for the policymaker quality apprenticeship can support our next steps. Apprenticeships play a key role in bridging education and employment, providing young people with the skills needed and in an evolving labor market aligned with the ILO Recommendation 208. Costa Rica has upgraded its policies, expanded the partnership, and improved training methodologies to ensure quality apprenticeship and workforce development. What is INA? Instituto Nacional de Aprendizaje, or National Learning Institute, is an autonomous entity created by the law in 1965 and reformed by its organic law in 6868. This institution provides free training and professional education to individuals 15 years and older regardless social status, gender, or employment situations. INA operates in 55 training centers nationwide and offers economic support by scholarships. Some key advances in Costa Rica. Costa Rica has made significant progress in the institutionalizing apprenticeships through key policy measures and strategy initiatives. For example, in 2019, the Congress of Costa Rica approved the law of dual education, establishing a structure of an apprenticeship models, integrating the classroom learning with in the job training. Also, in Costa Rica, we create the national system of the technical and vocational education training. The name in Spanish, CINEFOTEP, to connect training provider, employer, and the policymakers, ensuring that our apprenticeship system meets labor market demands. Also, with the support of ILO, we have focused on the capacity programs to upgrade the pedagogical skill of the trainers, also the trainer certification program to ensure quality and consistency and standardization in the apprenticeship delivery. Costa Rica is growing in dual education. For example, INA, in alliance with the private sector, has signed 106 dual training agreements with 99 companies which provide employment opportunity, especially for the young people without work experience. Also, 27 dual training programs have been designed with a projection of 50 programs to the 2025. That represents a 56% increase compared to last year. Continue with the expansion of dual training that we are implementing. For example, in 2022, we only have 15 programs. Now, this year, we have 50 programs to execute. Next, please. Okay, engaging the stakeholders. Through some initiative that I like to share about is the named Connection Dual. That we have a collaboration between the business and the training institution, helping design the apprenticeship programs that directly responds industry needs. We have adopted also an competencies based approve, ensuring the student acquires certificates, industry recognition, this with the implementation of the Tibet qualification framework in Costa Rica. What is the value quality apprenticeship in Costa Rica? So we have benefits for the students and the national economy. For the student, we improve employability, career pathways, and skill relevance. For the employer, we ensure access to skilled workforce aligned with the industry needs. And from the Costa Rica economy, apprenticeships drive productivity, innovation, and labor market integrations. And how the ILO guide can support the implementation. The ILO guide is a valuable tool to support further development and implementation apprenticeships in four key areas. Jens mentioned a lot of these. I'm going to talk about only four of these. The guide offers a structured approach for the design, monitoring, and evaluating apprenticeships on the global quality standards. An important thing that I want to mention is the tripartite collaboration between government, employer, and the workers that is essential to scaling and improving the apprenticeship programs. The guide provides strategies to improve these partnerships. Another fact is important is how to track apprenticeship success. For example, in Costa Rica, we are developing better data systems. The guide provides tools to ensure the stronger quality assurance mechanisms. And the last one, and not less important, is that we aim to expand the apprenticeships for the women, youth, and vulnerable groups to ensure equitable access to skill development opportunities. In conclusion, Costa Rica has made a great stride in expanding apprenticeship, but there is still work to be done. We ensure high quality, inclusive, and sustainable programs. For example, the ILO guide offer a roadmap to enhance policy implementation, foster collaboration, and maximize the impact of the friendships. Moving forward in Costa Rica, our key priorities are upgrading partnership with the international organization, also implementing best practice from global apprenticeship models, ensuring accessibility, equity, and inclusivity apprenticeship opportunity. This is a quick presentation about what in Costa Rica we're improving, and thank you for your attention. And I look forward to engage with all of you and learning for our experience as we continue advancing the quality apprenticeship globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric, for this presentation. Let's now turn to Ethiopia with, let me change the slide. Yes, okay. We turn to Ethiopia with Dr. Teshome Lemma, who is a TVET expert and a senior advisor to the State Minister for TVET in Ethiopia. And he will discuss ongoing reforms in Ethiopia and also the opportunities for alignment with the ILO standards. Teshome, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think my voice is okay for you. Yeah. Okay. Please, next slide. Next slide. Yeah, I have 5 talking points on Ethiopian context, apprenticeship landscape in Ethiopia, and key opportunities, challenge and enablers, and the way ahead. This is the point I want to talk. On the issue, please. In the context, Ethiopia basically has a very huge huge demographic dividend, which is 70% under 30, and this require skilling and creating a job and contribute to the economic growth. And the other context is a 10 years plan, also plan to create as much as possible for young people coming into the labor market, the job, and then apprenticeship is a key component for this purpose. The other thing is existing labor law of 2019 established a foundation for apprenticeship, which we can utilize it by updating it. The other is the issue of highly informal employment, skill mismatch, and limited access to structured workplace training. So significant challenge faced the informal sector. Then with the apprenticeship through this recommendation will be benefit us. The ILO guide provides a roadmap to enhance Ethiopian system by linking to education, labor, and social protection. So Ethiopia now committed to implement the ILO Quality Apprenticeship Recommendation through collaborative reforms. So the landscape, when you come to the landscape, the proclamation of the labor law 1156 2019 provides a legal foundation for the apprenticeship by clearly stating the contract requirement by different articles, which I listed here. The other is the issue of this law. There is a gap when you see against the ILO recommendation. So it needs some updating and align with the quality apprenticeship recommendation. Please, next slide. The other thing is that high prevalence of informal apprenticeship, which requires a structured and certifying program, which you have to take care of. And the other is a limited employer participation, which you have to work on. Currently, we are trying to establish the sector skill bodies and by segmenting with different sector. Industry involvement needs to be strengthened. We are working on that parallel with ILO. Mismatch between TVET training and industry needs require better alignment. Again, we are now working very strongly to improve our TVET strategy, which is the extension of the 2023 education and training policy of our country. So 2025 strategy is now will be ready as of September. It will be implemented, and then this will enable us to expand and formalize the apprenticeship program. Next. What are the key opportunities we have to align the ILO recommendation and readiness for the implementation? One is that the proposed measures include enhancing social dialogue, which is really we missed in the previous, but this now give us a guide by involving employers, federation, union, and program design and enhancing industry-driven training through public-private partnership. The other is protecting the apprentice right and by formalizing remuneration standards, safety protocols, and access to grievance mechanism beyond the current stipend rules, which is also one of the opportunity we have. The proposed legislation aims to formalize recognition system by linking apprenticeship certificate to national qualification framework for labor market mobility. This is an opportunity we have. The initiative aims to enhance inclusivity that what previously explained by the author. Really, this is also one of our opportunity to really align. The other is make the digital resources, including e-platform for connecting employers and apprentices and training for digital skills. And the other point is again, we have a good opportunity to TBET Strategy 2025 modernize apprenticeship with ILO recommendation, which is expanding competency-based training, establishment of national apprenticeship framework, and improving funding mechanism for employer, because a lot of things now included in our strategy to enforce implementation of the and the adoption of this recommendation. And the challenge, limited institutional coordination, but particularly three ministries which come to forefront, like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor and Skill, and Ministry of Industry. This has to be coordinated, and currently it is fragmented. And the other is low employers' awareness of apprenticeship, which always think of benefiting beyond the cheap labor in a significant issue, but the competitiveness is based on the skill. So this is the challenge. The current funding for monitoring system is insufficient, and ensuring apprentices' right is still a challenge. The strategic enablers are now current industrial park arrangement in the country, about 17 parks, different in agro-processing, manufacturing, and so on. This can be used as a pilot area, which is already started in Awasa, the textile and garment. The ILO guide now is valuable for harmonizing policies and with a global best practice, ensuring align the institutional international standards. This is the next, the way forward. For the policymakers, call for action, especially. This is one is to establish structured national apprenticeship system with a clear role and responsibilities, strengthen governance and oversight, align policies with the labor market needs, expand employer engagement, integrate apprenticeship into workforce planning. We have already started with sector skill bodies in agro-processing that we are going to practice it. This will be very useful. Promote digital and green apprenticeship, preparing the future jobs. Facilitate international partnership, leveraging global best practices. Ethiopian TVET strategy 2025 also aiming to create structured, high-quality apprenticeship with existing platform. And legal framework should be updated and it shall be aligned with existing recommendation, the competency recognition, social partner roles, and higher apprenticeship age limits. These all have to updated. Invest in developing the capacity and promote formalization in the apprenticeship. The ILO recommendation for iterative improvements are being used to KPIs for this purpose. So adapt the ILO Global Partnership Network as a resource for best practices at international level. We have to collaborate. I think these are the major points I I plan to address. Thank you for listening. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much to both, to Eric and to Shomie, for these country insights. And so, as you know, in addition to working with our constituents at the ILO, we also work closely with partner organizations to ensure that implementation is effective. And so we will now hear from two partners. First, we have Catherine Rowan from the Global Apprenticeship Network. She will share some insights about how GAN supports quality apprenticeships. And Catherine is the executive director of GAN. Prior to that, she worked at Nestlé for many years as vice president for human resources for Latin America, as well as global youth lead. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Cecilia. And it really is an honor to be with all of you here today. Great panelists and from around the world, and also our partners, the ILO and GenU. And not to mention the author of the Policymakers Guide. It's great to meet Jeff. We had the chance to be part of the review team and really appreciated the collaboration. This is very indicative and characteristic of the collaboration we've had with the ILO over the years. Absolutely no question. We've been proud members of the Network of Champions and also a Global Coalition for Social Justice members. So I want to talk to you a bit about GAN. You see here on the slide a little bit about our mission and vision. Very clear. We started about 10 years ago. In fact, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary. It's essentially out of a real concern about youth unemployment and the concern that if we didn't do something as the private sector and also as international organizations, that we needed to solve the problem and we needed to really act. We decided that the best thing to do would be to advocate for work-based learning and including apprenticeship programs, to share industry best practices on from the member companies, and as well as work on both global but also local initiatives. And I can tell you that there's been a lot of work done over the last 10 years, lots of collaboration, and yet there still is a lot to do when it comes to youth unemployment. And we know from the ILO figures that young people are 3.5 times have 3.5 times or more unemployed than they're at 13% unemployment, 3.5 times more than the rest of individuals who are older. Our organization is powered by a number of companies, as you can see here. Most of them operate in multiple jurisdictions as well as multiple sectors. Many of them have been participating in apprenticeship programs for decades, in fact, some of them for almost a century. And they believe that today there's even more compelling reason with the current status of the complex future of work to continue to support apprenticeship programs. We're very proud to have founding partners like the International Organization of Employers, the ILO, Business at OECD, and the OECD itself to be part. And we also have a number of networks who are doing work at a local level. So as I said, we do work at a global level as well as locally. We have 7 networks around the world, and many of them have been engaged with ILO partners on a local basis. In fact, last week for Global Social Justice Day, we had an initiative that was co-hosted by GAN Guatemala and GAN Argentina with ILO Sinterfor, talking about this topic, a very important topic of apprenticeship and how we move towards quality apprenticeships. So that's where we are on a local basis. We decided, though, that there was a great opportunity to showcase the role of the private sector in apprenticeship and in driving quality apprenticeship programs, because we fundamentally believe that the private sector is key to playing a role along with its other partners. So 1 year ago, we launched at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Corporate Champions for Apprenticeship. And essentially, this is an organization that is powered by the private sector. and has also been and is geared around all of the recommendations around quality apprenticeship. So you see here, corporate champions for apprenticeship essentially are committed to a guiding principle to quality apprenticeships based on recommendation 208. Each one of the criteria and the guiding frameworks of recommendation 208. And you can see on the next slide, you can see how we've essentially parceled it out. It very much mirrors the policy makers guidance because it is mirrored to recommendation 208. Each one of our corporate members is committed to ensuring that they abide by the guiding principles of recommendation 208. Committed to advocating for quality apprenticeships, committed to promoting quality apprenticeships, but also from their side, also committing to measuring their own progress and to ensuring that they improve with respect to how they deliver a quality apprenticeship programs. So essentially, I think you can see the commitment that the private sector has, but we know that we can only do it with the involvement of other stakeholders. And the ILO and the stakeholders around the table today are key to that. Now, just before closing, I'd like to just comment on the policymakers guide and to say that number one, we think it's a very it's a very robust document. It provides a lot of context around what a supportive regulatory environment would look like. There are a lot of examples provided, which enables those who are reviewing or want to know how to move forward, gives them lots of options on how to manage that. There's a lot of diversity in approaches without being overly prescriptive. And I like to think of it as being kind of freedom within the framework. And recommendation 208 is very much that. It takes into consideration the local context and ensures that it can be adapted to the local context quite readily. And essentially, with the policymaker's guide, there's a lot of work already been done. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. So I would just say that I think a very important message here is around the importance of social dialogue. We can't do it without working together. And again, is based on collaboration, based on partnership, as Srinivas mentioned. And I'd like to thank the ILO team for the ongoing collaboration and the work that we've done together. And maybe just reinforce the message that investing in apprenticeships means investing in the future. There's no question about that. And it's very clear, and I'll just close with this, that apprenticeships are more than just workforce solutions. They're pathways to social mobility, and we really believe they're pathways to equity and pathways to resilience. And it takes all of us to make a difference. Many thanks.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Thank you very much, Catherine, for your presentation and for all of the great collaboration that we've been having with GAN and the support you provided also on this guide. So next, we will hear from Urmila Sarkar, who is the Deputy Director of Programs at Generation Unlimited. Prior to that, she was UNICEF's Regional Chief of Education for South Asia, and she will speak about GenU's commitment to support apprenticeships to address the global youth skills and employment challenge. Urmila, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks so much, Cecilia, and really great to be here and really honored to be also part of this panel. And as mentioned, GenU is anchored in UNICEF and a public-private youth partnership which aims to skill and connect young people to employment and entrepreneurship. So we're really happy today to be joining hands with the ILO, with Cecilia, with Srinivas, Patrick, and the amazing network of partners. And great to meet Catherine here today. We've been working closely with GAN. And I noticed in the presentation, you have close partnerships with Microsoft, Accenture, and in fact, Kate Benchin is on our board of the Generation Unlimited. So a lot of like-minded, mission-aligned partners with our organizations. And a really important and a really landmark recommendation and principle on apprenticeship with the ILO's Recommendation 208. And I really believe, as the speakers before me have said, it's setting a global standard for high quality apprenticeships for youth and the future workforce, and really ensuring no one left behind. And it was great to meet also Jeff, the author, who really well outlined all the principles in the guide and how this is being applied in practice in Costa Rica and Ethiopia. We know that youth skills and employment challenge. We know that this challenge represents one of the biggest development challenges of our time. With 260 million young people not in education, training, and employment around the world, 2/3 of these are young women. And this is alongside high unemployment and underemployment rates, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and the Middle East. And at the same time, we have a global workforce that's undergoing rapid transformation due to technology, AI, automation, and evolving industry needs. And the skills gap then between education, TVET, and labor markets continue to widen. And then the most underserved communities miss out. So as highlighted by the World Economic Forum, hundreds and thousands of surveyed companies have reported that investing in learning and on-the-job training and automating processes are the most common workforce strategies, which will be adopted to deliver the organization's business goals. So in other words, apprenticeships for young people are especially relevant as a medium for gaining workplace skills as well as technical skills and engaging in real life work. It also enables quick adaptation to industry needs. And I wanted to add, including digital, technical, and soft skills needed for the new opportunities that we see emerging in the green economy, in the creative industries or orange economy, and in the blue economies, in the marine and ocean industries. And another point I did want to underline is that what we see with young people around the world, that the majority of them are employed youth in the informal sector, often working in poor conditions with less social protection. So that's why it's really critical to ensure that we have quality apprenticeship in both formal and informal settings. As contributors to the guide, we believe that this will really help translate policy into action, offering clear guidance steps and examples for various stakeholders spanning governments, businesses, educators, unions, and also, very importantly, the young people and the apprentices themselves to build stronger apprenticeship systems and apprenticeship uptake. And most importantly, we will be promoting, and we are promoting, this use of this guide with our network of partners, which is now in over 90 countries worldwide since we launched in 2018. And I'm happy to say this builds on our great collaboration with the ILO and the Turin Center last February, where we were inspired by the learning and best practices in the field, and has also included the Partnership for Improving Prospects for Forcibly Displaced Persons in Host Communities with the ILO, UNHCR, the World Bank, IFC, where quality apprenticeship is one of the key enablers and pathways for young people, which I've got to see firsthand in Jordan, in Lebanon, and Uganda. And I did also want to make the point that it's so important to work side by side with young people and their organizations to ensure that their aspirations meet the demands of the labor market and industry needs. Finally, when it comes to the countries, we're already seeing several countries in our network implementing and scaling quality apprenticeships for young people through innovative public-private youth partnership. For example, Brazil's 1 Million Opportunities UNMIO brings together the ILO with UNICEF, a number of partner private sector, and has generated decent work opportunities, now 670,000 decent work opportunities with almost 200,000 quality apprenticeships in just 4 years. And I think it's an example that really exemplifies how the principles of the guide can play out in practice with good legislation, good partnership, financing, and then execution, and ensuring that no one is left behind. We have other examples in India, where we're collaborating with the ILO on Skills Innovation Challenge that supports quality apprenticeship through digital transformation. And finally, in Nigeria, the leading higher education institution in Africa, Yabatech, has built an all-girls tech hub, which reaches out to young women in the urban informal sector with quality apprenticeship in traditionally male-dominated industries such as mobile and web applications development. And I could see firsthand when I was there last November that despite whatever challenges these young women have experienced in life, they smiled widely with light in their eyes as a result of being able to access this new knowledge, the new skills, and the new networks. And we had to ensure and work to ensure protection and the regulatory frameworks that are needed, as pointed out in the guide, to ensure these were quality apprenticeships. We're really excited to collaborate on enabling quality apprenticeships and livelihoods for youth, as we call Equally, alongside ILO and GAM, to scale this work and increase the evidence base of cost-effective approaches that work. So in short, by working together, as we've heard from governments, from businesses, education and training systems, the workers, and the young people themselves and their organizations, I do believe we can scale quality apprenticeships worldwide and thus make a significant contribution towards addressing the youth skills and employment challenge, and thereby creating brighter futures for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urmila and Catherine, for your very valuable insights and for reminding everyone of the importance to invest in apprenticeships, including to solve the youth skills and employment issue. So we are a bit late on the schedule. I apologize for those who need to leave, but we will now jump to more or less 10 minutes of question and answers for those who can stay. You can use the Q&A function in Zoom that you should have. I see that there are already some questions actually that were submitted. It would be great if in the question you indicate, in case you are addressing it to one of the speakers in particular, it would be great if you could specify it so that we know already who should take the floor. So let me quickly go through the questions and see. There is a question about, so to the whole panel, so whoever wants to answer. What are some strategies for promoting apprenticeships for small and medium-sized companies which have challenges in terms of resources? I don't know if any of you would like to take this question. Okay, maybe we can think about it and answer later. So we have someone saying that they have read the guidelines and found it very useful. But it addresses mainly the employees and workers. Meanwhile, I'm here to amplify the voice of young people in my age, which are students. The only similar program I can think of is internships. I am wondering if the ILO has similar guidelines for internships. So I can answer that and say that there is no, Jeff, you want to take the floor? Yes, please.
Yes, there was discussion at the time when this recommendation was being launched as to whether it should refer to internships as well as traineeships, as it has done to apprenticeships. And the decision was taken to focus first, at least, on the question of apprenticeships. What I would say, this isn't exactly the answer to your, a direct answer to your question, but in the European Union, there is now a recommendation on traineeships or internships. And in fact, I just noticed that they're moving towards a so-called reinforced quality framework for traineeships in 2024. So I would, as a quick movement, just to understand what the issues are and the ways in which internships can be used professionally and appropriately, it may be an interesting move to have a look at what has already taken place within the European Union. I'll stop there.
Urmila, please go ahead.
Well, yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Utilia. It was on your previous question about the challenges for apprenticeship in small and medium enterprise. Just to say that the example that I'd referred to in Nigeria, that's actually work on apprenticeship with small and medium enterprise. And definitely there are a lot of challenges. There's challenges around protection, around safeguarding issues, around financing, and also even looking at ensuring that learning is accredited, ensuring that whatever is being done in these settings is as per national qualification frameworks. So, and there's also issues around scale. So that's why when looking at the reality is there is a huge urban informal sector, for example, in Lagos in Nigeria, and this will mirror many parts of the world. So what's important is to look at how can we look at better connection to what is there in terms of national qualification frameworks, in terms of protection, safeguarding, and also financing. Because sometimes that will be the best way actually to reach a lot of young people. So the importance is how do we insert the principles of quality apprenticeship in such settings? Thanks.
Thank you very much. There's a question for Ethiopia. Show if you're still with us. Are you still with us? Yes, okay. So there's a question they ask in the context of apprenticeships in the informal sector, who funds the benefits listed under the apprentices' rights? So the fair remuneration, social protection, and safety aspects.
If I correctly get it, the question about these informal sector employees, is that right?
Yeah, it's a bit unclear to me as well, but so I think the question is maybe in theory, who would fund the benefits listed under the apprentices' rights if the informal apprentices are formalized? I guess this is maybe the question.
Currently, this is a good question, by the way. We identified this. This will be a problem in the future. So in the newly under development, of course, the new employment policy should focus how to make informal to formality, how the transition can be done. So that has to be guided by the policy. And the next step, the different laws, strategies has to be in place. That will make clear. For the time being, I cannot say exactly this is what to be done specifically. But what I assure you that is already we have now captured in our new employment policy, which addresses the informal sector to transit from informal to formal very quickly to develop the economy of the country.
Thank you very much. There's a question for Jeff and Emin from the Turkey office. She says, I wonder what are the major determinants to expand social security coverage for apprentices from a narrow occupational security and health and sickness insurance to old age, disability, maternity, etc. There is a hot debate in Turkey, and apprentice advocacy groups are speaking for expansion of apprentices protection who actually work for long hours during their practical training at workplaces. This is a tricky one.
Trust me to get one of the complicated questions. That's a really big debate, and I think that can only be done at a national level. That's the first thing. It can only be done as a result of real commitment to wanting to improve working conditions in general terms. And then the next thing is to ensure that those refer to apprentices as they do to normal workers who have a contract of labor. So I think it's quite difficult to just come in from the side of the apprentices. There needs to be a much broader debate so that these conditions are available for workers, and then within the context of that debate to ensure that during the off-the-job training, these conditions also are appropriate for young apprentices. That's the best I can do at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will stop here for the questions. Unfortunately, we need to move to the conclusions, but thank you very much for the questions. I saw some questions about will you share the links and so on. We will have a comprehensive follow-up email with all of the links and references to things that were mentioned during the meeting. So you will have everything. And also the translated version in French and Spanish of this guide will be made available soon as well. So I will now give the floor to my colleague, Patrick Daru, the team lead for skills delivery at the skills branch, and he will conclude with some quick concluding remarks. Thank you. Patrick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cecilia. Yes, this will be quick remarks. I want to thank all the panelists for their contribution. I mean, these were very interesting interventions, and we learned a lot from Costa Rica, from Ethiopia, and of course from Ghana and Genio. So thank you very much. One point that I would like to highlight about the manual is that you're not expected to read it from page 1 to the end of the book, right? This is supposed to be a tool as part of a social dialogue process. So you would have a consultation with the trade unions, with the employers, and you decide on the priorities for the apprenticeship reform that you want to lead. And then you go to the manual and you pick the elements and the good examples and the clarification that you need to go one step further. So I think it's important in a sense on how to use the manual and how to make the most of it. Another thing that I want to highlight is that we are at your disposal to facilitate these social dialogue processes. We have set up some templates on how to make it happen, and we also available for all countries. So please do not hesitate to contact us. We would be very interested to hear from you also on what additional tools you would be needing to implement recommendation 208. I can tell you, for instance, that we are about to release a small research on the remuneration of apprentices, because this is definitely a point where we had a lot of questions, and we thought it would be important to have some evidence-based recommendation on the subject. So this is about to be released. We have also with ITUC an advocacy toolkit that we are starting. So for all our brothers and sisters from the trade unions, at the end of the year, you should have actually a good tool that you can work with to promote apprentices and apprenticeship. So this is it. I mean, I just want to say some few words and thank everybody on the panel for this great session. And I look forward to further discussion and interaction with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you to all of the speakers who are here today for your presentations. And thank you mostly to all the participants, especially if you managed to stay until the end. I've put in the chat a link to our LinkedIn page and our newsletter that you can subscribe to be updated on the next events and to be updated on all of the activities around apprenticeships and skills in general. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great day, afternoon, or evening, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.